All right. So this is our last video. And in this video, we're going to put all the pieces together and make a mega map of the invisible sky. See what's there. So what's happened so far? Each team took one part of the sky, one large region of the sky, typically about 1% of the entire sky. And that may not sound like a lot, but it's a lot. That's a big chunk of the sky. These are typically 20 degrees by 20 degrees. And there's a lot going on in that big of a chunk of the sky. So they mapped it. Each team did their particular piece. They turned it into an image using radio cartographer in Skynet. And then they opened it up in the radio source finder tool. And this tool allowed them to explore their image. The first thing they did was they corrected the WCS. The radio cartographer images don't have a perfect WCS, so you took the little circles and moved them onto the sources, perfecting the WCS. And then you could click anywhere in the image, and it would open up Simbad, and we showed you how to explore and sort the information and figure out what that was in, for example, the optical. It's just a source of radio emission in your picture, but using this tool, you're able to figure out which source is which, the circled ones and the uncircled. And the kinds of things you discovered were star-forming regions, sometimes called H2 regions, and supernova remnants from the deaths of massive stars, and supermassive black holes at the cores of other galaxies. And these galaxies had various designations, such as active galactic nuclei, or quasars, or Seyferts, or radio galaxies. But all of them are supermassive black holes that are being fed at the cores of galaxies, developing an accretion disk and jets and spitting out material emitting radio waves. So each team explored their maps and found all sorts of stuff. Okay. Now, what we're going to do in this video is we're going to take those maps and put them together into a mega map. So how does this work? After you are done exploring it in Radio Source Finder, you saved it. And pretty soon we'll have two buttons there, one to save the full radio file with all of its layers, and one to save just the main layer. You want to save just the main layer, and then your instructor will give you a place to put it. And all the teams will go through their maps and put their main layers there. And the instructor will go through them ahead of the next class and make sure that they're all good, that they have corrected WCS, that it's just the main layer and not the full file. Make sure that you remembered to remove the RFI. If not, they'll go in there and reprocess it. But they'll check out this list of files and make sure everything's good. And then at the next class, you'll upload it into Afterglow and piece it all together. So let's pick up from that point. To do that, you go to Afterglow, open file. You want to go to your workspace. You probably want to create a separate folder for this. So create a new folder and go in there and upload. And I've already uploaded mine. Okay. Now, if some of these fail to upload, what that means is your workspace is full. And you'll need to go out of this folder and find some things to delete. Download them first onto your computer so you don't lose any hard work that you've done previously, but then clear them out of your workspace, come back in here and try again and get everything in here, all 16 maps. Now, if you're in a class that didn't have 16 teams, if you weren't able to get through all the maps, you or your instructor or anyone can search the Skynet archive and find the maps that you didn't do and get them in here as well. So you get to see the whole sky. It's up to you. You can just make a MegaMap of the part that you analyzed as a class, or you can get the whole shebang by bringing in some archival images. Okay, so I have all 16 pieces in here. And once they're loaded in, you're going to open them. So I'm going to select all and open. They don't take too long to open. There we go. Okay. So let's see, that's map 48. Don't need that. Here's map 78. Now you can check them. They look good. Different pieces of the sky. Okay, now to put them together, it's pretty easy. Go to the aligner tool, select all of them. Now I should say, if you haven't stripped out just the main layer, if you're looking at the full multi-layer fits file for each of these, you'll have to go through and select just the main layers. But if they've already been stripped out, you can select all, as long as nothing else was in your file list. If you have some other stuff there, you'll need to go through and deselect them and remove anything that's not related. But make sure your 16 main layers are selected. You want to go into mosaic mode, just like we did with the moon. We're going to piece different pieces together. It's a big mosaic. And make sure these three are turned off: rotation, scale, and skew. These are not like optical pictures. A telescope can take an optical picture and may be slightly rotated because the telescope has, gravity was pulling on it. These were maps. The radio telescope moved across the sky, collected data, and then we reconstructed the image from the map. And the image is reconstructed perfectly in the coordinate system. So there's no rotation. They're all the same scale. So all these can be turned off. Mode is WCS. You now have corrected WCSs on each of these maps because you corrected them in the radio source finder. Then you submit, and it will line them up. And this should not take long. There we go. And what it will do is it will replace each piece with a very large image, the image of the whole entire map all put together. And you'll just see that individual piece in its proper location in the whole large map. Usually it's faster than this. It's a little slow this time. I'm not sure why, but we'll be patient, let it finish. Here we go. I don't know what happened there. A little glitch. Okay. That was very slow. It's normally much faster than that. But you can see, as I was describing, it reloaded and it's much larger now, and that piece is where it's supposed to be. Map 228, where does it land in the MegaMap? We're about to find out. Right there, etc. Map Degals. Oh, that's the one we were on. Maybe map 128. Let's just get another example. So they're big, mostly empty maps, each having a little piece where that little piece is the large region that one of the teams mapped. This will load in. But we're not going to wait for it. Let's go to the final step, and that's the stacker. Oh, here it comes. Okay, now we've aligned the images. Now we just have to stack them. So you go to the stacker, select all your aligned images, and everything here could be real basic. The mode is average, no rejection, no scaling, no smart stacking. All the equalization is turned off. Just submit. It's just going to straight up average them together. Should also be a fast operation. And it will create a new file. You have to go looking for it. Here it is, map stack, or sorry, corrected stack. Give it a chance to load it in. There must be some load on the server at the moment. Here we go. Okay, so here's our MegaMap. This is about 15% of the entire sky. And let's see what we have. I'll zoom in here to the central regions first. Now to make it look a little bit nicer, go up to Display Settings, switch it to Midtone, hit the default. We get a little bit more definition in the plane of the galaxy here. So what do we have? This is the galactic center. All sorts of sources along here. I don't know them all by heart, but they're in the source list now that the students have made. I do know that this right here is Kepler supernova. Keep sliding on down the plane. We're into the second map. Again, in the plane, it's mostly going to be star-forming regions, sometimes called H2 regions, and supernova remnants. Those are the primary things in the plane. Up here, out of the plane, you're more likely to find supermassive black holes at the cores of other galaxies, and that's what these are. These are two D galaxies with black holes that are being well fed right now and spitting out radio waves from their accretion disk jet structures. Sliding along, I think this is 3C 400, 405, I think 400, can't remember, but it's a big, bright supernova remnant. Other things, each of these are something interesting. This right here, this whole structure, although it's on the edge of the map and kind of messed up, that is a supernova remnant. It's gotten so big over time, we're even resolving it with our blurry radio telescope. Now, coming out here, you see that the busyness coming from the center of the galaxy and on out, the busyness is starting to subside until you get into this messy region. What's going on here? Well, that's our arm of the galaxy. Now, the center's over there somewhere, and we live in an arm going around the center. And there's actually more of the arm on one side. We're kind of near the tip of the arm on the other. So if you look down the long side of the arm, you get all sorts of stuff on top of each other. And that's what we're seeing here. We're looking down our arm of the galaxy. It's a little difficult to identify stuff in here. There's just so much radio emission on top of it, on top of everything else, that this team may have a hard time identifying some of these blobs. But hopefully there are other things in this map that they could find. This right here is, of course, Cygnus A, our primary calibrator. Sliding along the galactic plane, we're now past 90 degrees from the center, so off on the side. It's becoming sparser, some star-forming regions. This right here is the Cassiopeia A supernova remnant. Went off in 1680. No one saw it because it was behind a lot of dust, but it must have been a big one. That's emitting a lot of radio emission. I've been studying this source with students since the early 90s. We've written a couple papers on it, and it's faded a lot. It's probably lost about 1,000 Janskis since I started looking at it back in the early 90s. It's now about as bright as Cygnus, but back then it was about twice as bright. Continuing on, there's other things of interest, but we're approaching the anti-center, opposite the galactic center. So things are sparser. These two maps, they're skinny and came out of the plane to pick up some of these objects out of the plane. Some of them, I forget which ones, are quasars and extragalactic objects, but you also have star-forming regions and supernovae in here. Continuing on, you have these four bright sources. That's the Crab Nebula. This is IC 443, the Jellyfish Nebula. It's a supernova remnant. Down here, you have the Orion Nebula. Orion A is what we call it in the radio, but it's the Orion Nebula. If you look at the constellation Orion and find its belt, and underneath the sword, the middle star in the sword, if you look in binoculars, you'll see kind of fuzzy nebulosity, and that's the Orion Nebula emitting in the radio. Up near it is Orion B, that is the Flame Nebula. Here you see a bit of Barnard's loop. Some of it was removed by our background subtraction algorithm, but you see a bit of it. Up here you have the Rosette Nebula, big star-forming region. You can see how big it is. It's much bigger than ordinary sources. And then this is getting into map 228. Not much there, just a few things. If we zoom out, we did one other region not on the plane. It's up here. This is towards the center of the Virgo cluster of galaxies. We live in the suburbs of the Virgo cluster. And here you see some stuff from the central region. This right here is Virgo A, supermassive black hole, the one that was famous in the news because they've using a very large interferometer in the radio. They've imaged the event horizon of the black hole. Famous quasar right here, 3C273. These are all galaxies with supermassive black holes. Our algorithm is kind of truncating this into a rectangle, cutting off the edges. We'll work on that, but otherwise, pretty excited about this. Probably what I'm going to do and what your instructor may want to do, or maybe one of the students, is go through the source list. And we'll mark on here. We'll write what each of these things are. And I'm going to print it out as a giant banner and have all my students sign it and put it on the wall in our physics building so everyone knows how awesome my students are. All right. That is the end of this video. And I hope you enjoyed it. This is something very different. You know, you have good intuition for the optical sky. But coming into this course, most of you knew absolutely nothing about the radio sky. Now you've explored it and you have a better feeling for what's out there and the kinds of objects that are out there. So I hope you enjoyed it. All right.